We have to talk about the Knicks. And every great story has a villain. The Knicks had Reggie Miller. The Knicks had Trae Young. The Knicks had Tyrese Halliburton. And now they have CJ McCollum. Thoughts?
CJ's incredible, man. Like, he's such a, if you're a hooper, you love CJ. Dude,
He's so skillful. He's so skillful.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The first, because he went on that crazy run at the end of the game, the first driving floater that he had, he gets the ball up in a high hesitation in the right hand, explodes forward to the right, but as he's planting his right foot, he scissor dribbles back to the left. Then when Jalen Brunson jumps on it, he crosses back to the right. And like Jalen was just completely on skates the whole time. And then he hits the tough floater over Cat. Then he hits another double cross on Jalen for yet another driving floater. Kind of the same move, just like less complicated. And Jalen didn't bite as hard on it, but he still beat him cleanly. And then on that last one against OG, like you could tell he didn't want to get the double team, so he didn't hunt Brunson. And then he also wanted the 2-for-1, so he went quick. And he just went to that hard drive to the left, step back over the top of OG. That was just a nasty, nasty move from CJ McCollum. But, credit to CJ. He's incredible. There's a bigger picture conversation to have, which is like, if Jalen Brunson is like straight up food against a 34-year-old CJ McCollum, then you're in big trouble if you're the Knicks, if you have any real goals.
I think the biggest concern for them for a while now is, can you be good enough defensively with Cat and Brunson as your two best players?
Yeah, exactly. And time again in different ways. Like sometimes it's Cat. Like with the Pacers, it was Cat, but other times it's Jalen Brunson. And like it just last night was clearly that was the case. And I think they're going to beat the Hawks for the record. Like I thought
I had Knicks in 6 for sure.
Yeah, I have Knicks in 6 too. And I didn't see much of an upset shot for Atlanta. I know that was kind of the trendy upset pick, but I don't think they're. I picked them in 6 thinking that CJ and Nikhil would a handful of times in the series go bar for bar with Brunson and get a win. But I will say I didn't think it happened this soon. I thought Atlanta would win game 3 and 4, and it would be kind of like that kind of series. But that said, the offensive end was where I got annoyed with New York, because if you remember the regular season game, the one like a couple weeks ago, the one that they won in Atlanta on national TV, Brunson won the game attacking CJ McCollum. And they had some success going at like Dyson Daniels and off-ball action with Cat, but Onyeka Okongwu was the guy guarding Cat in the late game sequence. The big adjustment from Atlanta in this game is they put Onyeka Okongwu on Josh Hart, which is really smart because Josh Hart is not the pick and pop threat that Cat is as a movement shooter, and he's not as good at like driving the closeout as Cat is. And so Atlanta, what they were doing at the end of the game was basically just bringing Onyeka up to the level and kind of like shocking Brunson, like quick hedges, quick blitzes, and then recovering out of it. So Brunson would pick up his dribble, and then the advantage would be gone. He'd give it up and then try to get it back, and now you're in a late clock situation, and now he's trying to ISO Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And Nickeil had him kind of figured out last night, and like he got that big strip on that turnaround jumper there on the left elbow. What bothered me was like, dude, go after CJ McCollum.
Yeah.
If he hedges and recovers, Mikal Bridges absolutely can hit those slip out threes and can also drive the closeout there. And if he switches, there's a much more favorable matchup than you attacking Nickeil Alexander-Walker one-on-one. And I thought it was stupid on two fronts, Combo, because like, first of all, you got bad shots going at Onyeka because of the Josh Hart matchup. So like, why not go after CJ just because you're going to get better shots? But 2, you allowed CJ McCollum to stand around and rest on defense the entire tail end of the game so that he has fresh legs to go down and fry your ass on the other end of the floor. Whereas if you go at him one-on-one, like maybe CJ doesn't have the lift and the explosiveness to be as effective against Jalen Brunson as he was. And so like that to me was the clear adjustment. Like what happened last night was a strange example of an experienced Knicks team getting out executed down the stretch. And like credit to CJ, and he certainly has been in a lot of playoff games. But I just thought Jalen Brunson, as bad as he was on defense, I just thought he was foolish in the way that he tried to attack Atlanta's defense.
All right, you have Knicks in 6. I had Knicks in 6. But should Knicks fans be concerned that it was a split at home? And on top of that, Nickeil hasn't had a great offensive game. And Jalen Johnson hasn't had a great game yet.
Nickeil and Jalen, I think, are just going through the growing pains that every good offensive player has when they go to the next level. Like, I actually was talking about this on my show last night. Like, I feel like this translates for every basketball player. Like, scoring the basketball effectively is a step-by-step process. Like, you got to be able to do it in your drills by yourself. Like, you're not going to hit a step-back three or a turnaround jump shot if you can't hit it in a shooting drill. Right. Then doing it one-on-one. Like, you got to be able to do it against a defender, a live defender trying to stop you. Then you got to be able to do it in a 5-on-5 practice. Then you got to be able to do it in a 5-on-5 game. Then you have to be able to do it in a very intense, high-stakes, super physical 5-on-5 game. And that's kind of the leveling up process. And I think both guys, I think Jalen Johnson made some real growth this year as like a turnaround shooter in the post and got really good at running some of those inverted actions. Like, he used to be a guy who couldn't really do much in the half court offensively, and he became a guy over the last half of the regular season that was starting to do some of that stuff. Nickeil had an awesome year, just turning himself into a movement shooter, a pull-up shooter, just a legitimate scorer. He's got some good, like, kind of in-between game that I think is a little underrated. But again, for both of those guys, it's just a different level when it's like, oh, it's Mikal Bridges in like a super intense game and he's got super long arms. And suddenly, instead of taking these from like 23, 24 feet, I'm taking them from like 26, 27 feet, and my rhythm's a little broken. And all of a sudden, I'm starting games, 2 for 9, and it just gets a lot tougher. And Jalen Johnson, it's Josh Hart. Josh Hart's just getting right up underneath him. He's got a really low center of gravity, so Jalen's not turning the corner as effectively. Although, to Jalen's credit, I thought he had a big driving bucket on Josh at the tail end of that game where he came off the right wing and he racked to the left and hit that like kind of drifting bank shot across his body on the left side of the basket. But again, those guys got to level up. This is what I would say. There's so many cards for Mike Brown to play. Because to your point, yeah, like I think Atlanta will win one of the games in Atlanta. I think this goes back to New York at 2-2. There's going to be a game, probably game 3, where Atlanta gets super hot with Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jalen Johnson, and they win by like 15 points, and they're up 2-1, and everyone's super excited about the Hawks. The cards that Mike Brown has to play is, one, he's still doing these extended stints with both Jalen Brunson and Cat off the floor, so he can attempt to try to balance the lineup structure a little bit. Like, Cat's just been crushing in this series. Like, putting him with the bench group might give you a better chance to have some success. And then again, at the tail end of the game, Jalen Brunson still hasn't really broken out the right card for how to attack this defense. I also think you saw, like, late in the game, CJ McCollum, after he had those 2 driving floaters, they sent a double and he turned it over. So, like, there's double team still when it comes to CJ, especially if you rotate well and get to the right non-shooters. Like, they close with Jonathan Kuminga. If Jonathan Kuminga and Jalen Johnson are both out there, you're better off playing those guys into catch and shoot threes than you are playing Jalen Brunson into, CJ McCollum into clean ISOs. So I think New York has cards to play. They're going to be fine. I think they'll drop down 2-1, but I think they're going to come back to New York 2-2, and I think they close this thing out in 6.
It's crazy how much more athletic Jonathan Kuminga is than everybody else on the court when he's in the open floor.
He's an incredible player. I thought that was his best playoff game that he's ever played. He can be a very frustrating player because of his inconsistency, even within that game.
Here's what I see with him sometimes on offense. I feel like sometimes he gets the ball and he doesn't care what's happening. He's in his mind like, I'm going to go score. I'm not going to care about reading the game. I'm going to go score right now no matter what the game dictates me to do.
Exactly. That's it. He doesn't read the game, which is why he's so prone to inconsistency. Like, even within that game, which was like an awesome Kuminga game. He had 19 points,
saw some of that
3
early.
stocks.
Yeah, we saw some of that early. Yeah.
He was way better attacking guards in switches in this game. Like, in game 1, he kept trying to grift with a low gather move on Brunson, and he was like turning it over and taking bad shots. In game 2, he started, like, I think it really kind of clicked for him when he had that post up on the right block. I can't remember who it was he was going at. I think it was Jordan Clarkson, but I'm not 100% sure. But he got a bucket and one in the post. And then he had another one against Jose Alvarado right at the free throw line where he spun and drew a foul. And then he had 2 easy driving buckets against Jalen Brunson. So he was like doing good driving on the guards and posting the guards down the stretch. That was way better than game 1. And he made those 2 big help defense plays late. He had the block on Brunson. He had another play where he kind of like stepped over and forced OG Anunoby to Euro step right into Okongwu, who like took the ball away from him on one of those late possessions. So Kuminga had a really nice game, but then like He's got to be able to make a catch and shoot three eventually. That's not really a processing thing. That's a skill thing. He's got to work on his shot. He missed 3 really good looks in the second half of this game. But the big one to me was like those random possessions where he tried to attack Cat and ISO. And you're like, what are you doing, man? Like him trying to attack bigs in ISO doesn't work because he can't shoot. So what happens is the bigs just sag way back and they do a good job taking angles on him. And then he ends up not being able to physically overwhelm them at the rim. So what I think his game has to translate to is like when he gets a big on him, go set a ball screen. That's where he got that two-handed dunk when he was in the pocket. Get a big on you, go set a ball screen. Get a small on you. Now let's space the floor and give you a chance to attack. And when you attack, don't try to grift for a foul. Use your physical gifts to try to get all the way to the basket. They'll probably end up fouling you anyway. Like he ended up getting 2 fouls there down the stretch. So again, it's a processing thing with him. Like if every game looked like this, guys, like he'd still be a Warrior. If every game looked like this, he'd be a guy who's making, a 4-year, $140 million contract after this year. But unfortunately, these games tend to be followed with or preceded by games like what happened in game 1, where he takes mediocre pull-up threes off the dribble that make no sense, or just, the grifty stuff on Brunson. Like, he just has to be able to replicate successes, and then he will start to have a long, successful career in this league. The talent is undeniable.
Are the Lakers favorites now against the Rockets?
I don't think so. I'm really impressed by what they did in game 1. LeBron is amazing. They also gave up a 27-shot advantage to Houston and had to shoot. Let me pull up the numbers because the shooting numbers in this game were like legitimately outrageous. So here they are. So they took 34 jump shots in the game and got 1.47 points per attempt. They were 7 for 15 on catch and shoot threes. They were 11 for 17 on off the dribble jump shots, 8 for 13 from the mid range, and 3 for 4 on pull up threes. Now, they will be able to clean some stuff up. They gave up 21 offensive rebounds. It wasn't quite as bad as it looked because 7 of them came in the final 5 minutes after they already took a 16-point lead. So I actually thought they held up reasonably well on the offensive glass. The turnovers, like the big one for me is they had a lot of turnovers in transition where it's like, hey, you're not going to be able to be the Showtime Lakers against this version of the Rockets because you're just not as athletic as them. So I don't think we'll see a 27-shot gap in game 2. I think it'll be more like 10 to 15. But it's just going to be so difficult for them to sustain the level of shooting with the types of talent that they have available on the floor. So like, I don't think Kevin Durant's going to play tonight. We'll see. Maybe he will. My guess is he comes back for game 3. But like I think I would favor the Rockets tonight, even with KD out. And so I think this probably goes back to Houston 1-1. I think Houston gets KD back in game 3 and blows out the Lakers twice and goes up 3-1. And then I think the Lakers end up kind of rolling over in game 5. That I think Houston wins the next 4. Maybe I'm pessimistic. There's a lot of people who disagree with me. There's a lot of, I was on with Kevin O'Connor yesterday. He's picking the Lakers to win the series. I know Lakers fans are super excited.
I don't think Luka. I have no inside information. I don't think Luka is as hurt as they're making it. I think he could come back at any point. I don't know why. I don't know why I feel that way, but I do.
I personally would be really, really, really surprised if we saw Luka again this year. The thing is like let's say it breaks right, combo. Like let's say the Lakers either win tonight and lose both in Houston, or lose tonight and steal one in Houston, and it's 2-2. Like, why would you bring Luka back on a recently injured hamstring to be hounded full court by Tari Eason to fundamentally change the play style for the way the Lakers have been playing in this stretch, which could end up disrupting rhythm and causing some problems? Asking him to like play defense against a team that's going to target him in a lot of ways. And like, and then best case scenario, you win game 5, you win game 6 somehow, get a few days off, and have to roll up in OKC. And by the way, you're probably not going to get many days off because OKC is going to be done with Phoenix already, and they'll probably have him play like 2 days later. So like, I just don't see the point. I thought that the Lakers flashed a ceiling in March that was really exciting, a ceiling that says, hey, we might be able to win the title at some point. So why not have Luka spend the summer getting healthy? Because the best thing he could do to help this team win is to get that hamstring back to 100%. Because we know, combo, like Look what happened to Devin Booker after a couple of hamstring injuries. Now all of a sudden he can't score against good defenses. Look at what happened to James Harden after a couple of hamstrings. That now he doesn't have the explosiveness that he had back when he was in Houston. And like James Harden's older now, but like there was a stretch there in Philly and with LA where he was like 32 and he just still wasn't that explosive. That's usually an age where guys are still pretty explosive, but it was the hamstrings. So like now Luka's not as dependent on the explosion as other players, but like his hamstring got hurt for a reason. All that the herky jerky stop start stuff taxes his hamstring, and if his hamstring can't go, it's going to be a problem. So, like, I just don't see the point in bringing him back. And without Luka, it's just inevitable that Kevin Durant returns at some point. And I just don't think the Lakers are going to be able to beat this team 4 times if Kevin Durant comes back.
NBA history tells you that experience is really important, but we saw OKC win last year with not that much of it. We see how good the Spurs are now. Does experience matter less than it used to when it comes to winning a championship?
Yeah, it definitely matters less than it used to, but that doesn't mean it doesn't matter. Like for instance, like if you go look at that Thunder run, like I think the big thing is like defense is defense is defense. So like those guys are going to have a certain amount of defensive success no matter what. Maybe they're a little more mistake prone, or maybe they're not as good at solving the chess match sometimes when they're younger, but when you're as athletically imposing as OKC is, you're just going to be good on defense. But like, Indiana made a finals run, but like they had some experience. Like Miles Turner's been around for a long time. Pascal's been around for a long time. You go to that Thunder team, like Shea is, he's a late 20s superstar now. Like he's been around for quite a while. And they did have Isaiah Hartenstein, and they did have Alex Caruso, and like they had veterans in the house. And San Antonio, for the record, like they are kind of a more exaggerated version of this, where Harrison Barnes is really the only experienced guy. De'Aaron Fox has been in 1 playoff series, but the reason why it matters less is because athleticism and defense now matter more. And so San Antonio just has that in spades. The second piece of it that I think makes things unique for San Antonio, I've been looking a lot at like Anthony Davis's first few playoff runs, where like we come to this idea like, oh, a star comes into the playoffs and he's going to struggle, and generally speaking, they do. Like most stars go into the postseason and they struggle. The guys that seem to not are the freaky athlete two-way players. That's why LeBron was able to step into the playoffs and be a good playoff player right away, right? That's why Anthony Davis, it's like he's getting 30 and 12 by finishing lobs and finishing cuts and beating bigs down the floor in transition.
That's why we're seeing Kuminga being impactful at this point,
Yeah, well, that's why Jonathan Kuminga, despite his flaws, can still put up big scoring numbers 100%. In the postseason, because he's so damn big and athletic.
Right.
But I look at Anthony Davis and his early playoff career as like a sign that Wemby's just gonna be a good playoff player no matter what. And obviously he has way more upside because he's basically just a better version of Anthony Davis. So like, obviously not every game he's going to go 5 for 6 from 3, but he just was immediately an offense breaking defensive talent right away against Portland. And he, already had so much success as a scorer right around the rim. And there's just a really, really high floor for that guy. So they're less prone to experience related issues than other teams. Where I think you'll see the experience disadvantage really show up if Denver advances. And if Denver's not beat up, like Aaron Gordon already started to look a little slow last night. Now, like if Denver advances and they're just beat up, then obviously that's an issue for San Antonio or for Denver. But if Denver shows up healthy, I think you'll see the experience disadvantage because Jokic kind of is the Wemby neutralizer in a lot of ways.
Let's end it here. Who's the best basketball player in the world?
I saw a lot of people going after Jokic last night, and I get that. I thought it was hilarious because Shea sucked in game 1. Like, he sucked in game 1. His team is just way better, and they're playing against a much lesser team. I thought that was one of the more shameful highlight reels of a superstar game that I've ever seen. The Shea foul grift fest against Phoenix. But Jokic was bad last night, man. He was really, really bad. And the defense stuff is a real issue. The physicality seems to wear him down. Once again, he struggled to make pick and pop threes, which has consistently been an issue in this Minnesota matchup. Minnesota just is a really tough matchup for him. So now this is where it gets tricky because like there's a version of this story where OKC goes up against San Antonio and loses, and Shea looks bad because Shea's not San Antonio is a bad matchup for OKC, right? So like some of this is matchup based. Here's all I would say. Jokic has kind of been weird in this series throughout. Like he was really unaggressive in the first half of game 1. Then he was really unaggressive again in the first half last night. Jokic had a bad game. There's more games to be played. This story will be told when we get to the finish line. And no, I came into the series thinking Jokic was the best player in the world. I'm not going to change my mind because Jokic had a bad game too, especially when Shea had a bad game 1. But at the end of all of this, I'll make up my mind. And there's a version of this story where we're done and we're like, oh, it's Wemby. That's on the table.
Because of the roll gravity.
Because of the roll gravity.
Roll gravity is a real thing, by the way. I mean, I think everybody thinks everybody thinks of gravity as 3-point spacing, and I think that's one of the things that the Celtics lacked when Porzingis wasn't playing, right? Like a guy that could roll to the rim hard and, make that gravity happen.
Gravity is a thing for every superstar.
Yeah.
What happened with Steph and the reason why it became such a buzzword is because people didn't understand it because it looks different. But every star has a unique gravity. Steph's gravity inverts the defense by bringing bigs out to the level of screens. Right. But it also is deeper than that in guard-guard actions with how often guards botch switches and 2 will run with him as he runs to the perimeter. Or he'll back screen for a player and his teammate will not want to help or the guy who's guarding him won't want to help. So the guy he back screens for is going to get a wide open layup. Like Steph's gravity is all of his activity around the floor drying too, right? LeBron had gravity for years. Like LeBron was the best drive and kick guy in the league for a decade because every time he put his head down and went to the rim, either in the post or in drives, he'd bring 2 or 3 dudes, sometimes 4 dudes into the paint. And that's why you saw J.R. Smith have amazing careers, Channing Frye have amazing careers, Kyle Korver have amazing careers, Mike Miller have amazing careers, Ray Allen have amazing careers.
LeBron's the greatest half-court passer ever because of that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. The gravity for LeBron looks like that. For Jokic, it's kind of a different kind of inverting gravity in that he is always bringing the center out to the elbows. He's bringing the center out to the elbow in 2-man game, which opens up the baseline for guys like Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown to feast. Everybody's gravity is different. And, I will say this though, Combo, because I thought, for the record, just so that everyone understands, the Wemby gravity is that when he rolls out of ball screens, you have to tag him. If you don't, it's a dunk fest. Or it's a post-up fest against guards.
Or it could be a dunk fest anyway. But
it could be a dunk fest anyway, exactly. But so you tag him, and then De'Aaron Fox and Steph Castle especially are 2 of the most gifted corner skip passers in the league. And so the Spurs literally generated the most corner threes in the history of the league this year because of Wemby's roll gravity. So that's what roll gravity is. But I did have a thought last night, Andrew, because I genuinely believe that Nikola Jokic is the best offensive player that I've ever watched.
Me too.
And it's because of all the things we just talked about. I think Steph Curry is probably the second best offensive player that I've ever watched.
Michael Jordan.
So that's a separate conversation.
Okay.
But I think it's Steph.
Okay.
But neither of those players are better than Michael or LeBron.
100%.
Even though they were better offensive players. And I think it really comes down to the fact that both of those players are a little bit susceptible to playoff physicality in their own ways. They can wear down physically. Steph has had injury issues throughout his career. Everyone goes Steph was hurt in 2000. You're right. And LeBron wasn't again because LeBron never got hurt when he was in his prime. He was always in peak physical form as things got physical, as things got intense. Nikola Jokic is a weak defensive player. He just is. Sometimes he can play up to kind of an average to above average level, and his teammates meet him at that level. And as a team, they defend well enough to beat anybody and to compete for a title, which is
I've seen Jokic play really good defense, by the way.
Exactly. To your point.
Yeah.
But not always. How many times in LeBron's playoff career did you watch him in a playoff game or in a playoff series and go, oh man, they can't guard because of that guy? How about this many times? How many times did you watch Michael Jordan in the series? Maybe when Magic Johnson was posting him up early in the series in 1991. But again, that's like a positional thing. Like you're asking a guard to guard.
Then they switched Scotty on him, and it was over for them.
Exactly. So that's the whole point. Is it was an easily solvable problem. The problem with Jokic is you can't go, hey Jokic, go guard the point guard. You know what I mean? Like that's the issue, right?
And having Jordan off the ball is probably better than having Pippen off the ball because he used to lurk everywhere anyway. So yeah,
exactly. So
yeah.
I left that game last night thinking like this is exactly why. Even though Steph and Jokic represent these incredible modern-day offensive engines, why they are on different tiers than Michael and LeBron. LeBron and Michael are easily both two of the top 5 offensive engines of all time. You can rank them 3, 4. You might have MJ 2, whatever it is. Like the top 4 are those two guys, LeBron, Michael, with Steph and Jokic in some order, right? And the gap is not big. Like, even though I have Jokic and Steph over those two guys, it's not by a lot. They're right up there with them. And they were two of the most resilient and physically imposing two-way athletes in the history of the game. And you never ever once worried about them wearing down compared to the other players on the court. It was the opposite, in fact. They were the dudes wearing the other guys down. And you never had to worry about them being at 100% physically or at least close, while also bringing that offensive impact, while also having the ability to be like, hey, LeBron, we have a Jamal Murray problem in the bubble. Can we put you on Jamal in pivotal game 5? You bet your ass I got it. Hey, LeBron, the gold medal's on the line. Jokic is killing us. Can you guard Nikola Jokic? Yeah, I'm 40, but I can do it. Like, I left that game last night, and I know this has always been the case, but it just was a thought that was resonating with me. I left that game thinking, like, this is why LeBron and Michael are on, like, a different tier than the rest of NBA history. Like, it's 1, 2 in some order, and you can argue however you want, but I think there's a gap after that.
Who would you have? Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
I have LeBron 1. I just think LeBron, and this is, I mean, it's a whole other conversation, but I think LeBron's career in a vacuum gives you the best chance to win the most titles. I just think he does. I think if I was a GM and I got to draft either LeBron, and let's say I'm an expansion team, like I just bought the brand new Seattle Supersonics in the year 2026, and I got to draft one of those two guys, and who gives me the best chance to win the most titles over their careers? It's LeBron.
I agree with you. I feel like you don't have to separate LeBron and Jordan fans, but I would say that LeBron fans in general will frame it in that way. Like, what player would I like to have on my team over the course of time? And Jordan fans will frame it in the way, who do I want with the ball in the last second to win? You know, who has the killer instinct?
And they would be right for that specific dynamic.
Yeah, and you could go either way, you know?
And that's where it gets complicated, because, like, if you're asking me, like, who had the most extended run of dominance where he was clearly way better than every other player in the league by a wide margin for years
Michael
and
Jordan.
years?
Michael Jordan.
It's obviously Michael Jordan. But I also think that's complicated because LeBron did exist in the era with Kawhi and Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and Nikola Jokic. LeBron's career overlapped with, in my opinion, more top-end talent than Michael Jordan's did.
Do you think there's a world that Wemby could get to that, where there's a huge gap between him and the second best guy?
I do. I think he, he's barely scratching the surface of the offensive player he's going to be. Right. And he's already the best defensive player in the league. This guy will have health providing. This guy is going to have at minimum, a 5-year stretch, but probably longer, but at a minimum 5-year stretch where he is both the best offensive player in the league and the best defensive player in the league.
Right.
And if there is a player in this era that has any shot to do what MJ did, it's Wemby.
I agree. Yeah.
And I can't wait to watch, man. Like, I find him to be must-watch television. Like, he's entertaining too, in a way that as hoopers, we can find joy in what Shea does, and I find Jokic's team offense to be one of the most palatable, enjoyable to watch offenses in the league. But very rarely do you get a guy that's a showman like Steph Curry, or the showman that LeBron James was. or the
Right.
showman that Kobe was.
I think you're also saying is the non-Hooper fan, there's more of a chance that Wemby will have that gravity, right? To have those people,
those
like
fans.
your grandma's going to want to watch him. Your grandma's going to want to watch him.
Yeah, like, let's be honest, Combo. If you're a casual fan and you watched that game 1 with Shea against Phoenix, you're not going to leave that game being like, "Oh, I'm such a huge Shea fan." Like, you're but like, how could you not watch game 1 of Portland San Antonio and be amazed?
Right. Yeah. Jason, always great stuff. You're always welcome back on the show. I know you're doing a lot of podcasts right now because it's that time of the year.
Dude.
Yeah. So where can we find you?
You can find me on so Twitter's where I'm most active at _JasonLT. That's where I tweet show announcements and show links and stuff like that. I'll occasionally give a thought on the game, although I don't tweet as much as I used to. But on YouTube, Hoops Tonight is where we're most prevalent right now. Wherever you get your podcasts, under Hoops Tonight as well. And obviously we have Instagram, TikTok, that kind of stuff. But those are the main spots. And Combo, I always enjoyed chopping it up with you, man.
Thanks for taking the time. You know how this goes. You got to wait online for a second so this could upload and talk soon, bro.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm at 70%, so it's going to be a minute.
Okay.